I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Yes. What's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like Live right here on Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball. Happy to be your host. Get out there, reach out, let your folks know to jump on in to catch this live if they can. And if not, we'll catch them later. And welcome to them in the future. Welcome to those of you who are here now. We have so much going on this morning. It's crazy. It's we probably gonna run long today. It's a lot happening. Things changing up to the very last second here. So you don't want to miss this. Please do. And then right after we leave, you could let your folks know it's gonna be a wild morning here on BPM. Right after we wrap up this morning, Kalonji is going to drop his interview done last night with the rapper T.I. So that's going to be fascinating. So it's an all hip hop morning. We're going to be talking Kanye. We're going to be talking DC hip hop with a brand new documentary project that I'm very happy to have heard about. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. There's so much stuff happening. So I want to get right to it. The first thing though that I have to do, and I see Brother Kaba is here, but I don't even want to he'll be here just a second. I don't even want to tarnish him with what I have to start off with this morning. First of all, even before that, BPM is hiring. We have a creative director position. We have a couple of other minor positions that we're developing. So please go to blackpowermedia.org if you're interested or think you might know somebody that's interested in helping us organize and expand the platform and help us with some aesthetics, some whatever. So check that out at blackpowermedia.org. Please also make sure that you've signed up there. You're doing our Patreon, supporting all of that. We have more projects coming. There's new shows coming on. So please check that. Yeah, T.I. is going to be on with Kalonji later this morning. Greetings, everybody. Yes, indeed. Yeah, you heard that right. It's going to be interesting. Greetings to you, brother Nathaniel, and everybody coming in. It's good to see everybody. Welcome to Jason White as a new member. Appreciate you and encourage others to join them. Okay, so the first thing, so check this out. I was trying to come up with a way to do this in a joke because I feel like there's some puns in here. I live in these tree-lined streets, so I don't bust guns, I don't bust caps. But now that I'm over 50, I do bust crowns or teeth caps. So I popped the crown off one of my teeth, right? But I'm insured. I'm a veteran. I'm gainfully employed by the state of Maryland and the good Morgan State University. So I call up the dentist who had just replaced the crown that had broken 3 years ago. And they say, hey, your insurance company, United Concordia, does not cover the replacement of a broken crown within a 5-year period. But I said, but that's what they told me last time, and I had to pay out of pocket because the crown that was on before that, when it broke, it's within its 5-year window. So I said, I see a pattern here where I'm never making it to the 5 years, and I'm constantly, I don't know what to tell you. So I called him up. I said, hey, good people. You're a good insurance company. I'm clearly paying you for 20 years. I take care of my teeth. I'm not in there getting a whole bunch of services, cleanings and all that, the regular stuff, but no heavy lifting. Look at that smile. Can we work something out? Because I'm never making it to the 5-year window. I don't know what it is. Crowns don't last that long. Maybe I just got them strong jawed like that. I don't know, but what, oh, Mr. Ball, we can't make adjustments to your policy. And I said, but I'm clearly alerting you to the fact that you've arbitrarily, or maybe not so arbitrarily, selected this 5-year window. I said, do you all have science or data that you could share with me that shows that crowns have been studied to last this long, so we should expect that, and if they're breaking routinely before that's something specific to somebody's, in other words, I'm never going to make it another 2 years, or I would have to go another 2 years to get the crown replaced. All that to say, with something as minor as this is the insurance. So all I said to the kind woman, it's not her fault on the end of the phone, is I said, these are the moments that I'm reminded of how happy I am to have been sent to war for this country and to be a veteran for this country. Now wait your 2 years and get your crown fixed. I felt like she was telling me like Billy Bats in Goodfellas talking to Tommy. Go get your crown fixed in 2 years, Jared. Yeah. Anyway, but what happened? Anyway, never mind. I don't want to. So okay, I just had to get that off my chest. I think that's trifling, and it bespeaks the general condition that we all face with this so-called healthcare system. Even with somebody is technically insured, which is one of the major problems, right? That even is kind of like employment numbers. Even within the claim of how many people are insured, how many people are actually underinsured. So you may technically even have insurance, but that only covers you for all just the bare minimum. And should you need even a crown replacement, you got to come out of pocket. So I thought that was whack. I figured I would just share it with our good folks here. Anyway, having gotten that off my chest, let me bring up the good brother who is here. Good morning. It is always good to see you, brother Kaba. How you doing, man?
Good morning, family. How y'all feeling?
Other than this little slight dent in my in the back of my jaw where this tooth used to be, I feel pretty good, man. I can't really complain.
Yeah. So did I hear you say? Did I hear you quote a Biggie line when it came to hiring somebody?
Did I quote a Biggie line?
I thought you said. I thought you said you're mad because my style you're admiring. Don't be mad.
Oh,
BPM
wow.
is hiring.
That was it. Don't get mad. BPM is hiring.
Yeah,
so all you rappers that Biggie was talking to, give it up. You need another career choice. Come work with BPM. Leave the microphones to the experts, some of whom we're going to be talking about this morning, brother Kaba, because we have a couple guests coming through to talk about a new oral history project focused on DC hip hop.
Hopefully it's not the oral history that's provided by United. By the way, I hope United is not the insurance either. But anyway, for the
right. Yeah. I thought you were about to. I was worried about where you might be going with that.
Yeah, but you mean between the Baltimore and DC, the trains? No, I'm not gonna go there.
Don't go there.
I'm not gonna go there. It's a family show.
It's a family show. But and then I am very and I don't know, I honestly, like, so the way this was coming together, it's happening all very last minute, late last night or early this morning. So I don't know, we'll all get to meet the brothers and the folks who have put this documentary together, or who are taking part in it at least a little bit, and learn more about it. But I was chatting back and forth with one of the organizers of the project early this morning, and I was kind of just teasing him a little bit about who I was and was not seeing in the clips that I was looking at, and I was like, there's going to be it might be some tense feelings. He was like, well, just it's just a first hit of its initial mini documentary, so they can raise more funding to do a more complete, because DC hip hop history is pretty rich. And I know you have a lot of experience with not only DC, but this whole region and beyond, performing and working with and just being aware of. So I look forward to getting in that with you and them. And then I watched the Kanye West DrinkChamps interview, and I just would love to have a conversation about that, because I took notes. I got, like a top 10 reasons why we shouldn't be so quick to dismiss that interview, and that what way we can make use of that interview. So and then there are a couple other things so that I'd like to get to, involving it's a little more with buying power, cryptocurrency, and One United Bank. Maybe if we have time.
Did you hear that the Staples Center is changing its name to CryptoArena.com?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. This is a big push. It's a big push to grow the bubble that will make those folks very wealthy, and that will all assuredly burst, and leave people holding not the bag they were hoping to be holding. They're gonna be or they thought they thought it was a bag full of gold coins. Open that joint up is bottle caps.
That's it.
it's like, but then I also made I had some more full disclosure, oversharing. I had a horrible night's sleep last night. All raggedy, up late. So one of the ways I was trying to kill the time was I went down it's just not a rabbit hole per se, but I watched the extended conversation that Math Hoffa had with Hassan Campbell, and I might want to play a clip of that if we have time later on this morning to talk a little bit about that. Because for those who don't know, Hassan Campbell, one of those who has come out over the last few years to talk about having been abused by Africa Bambaataa. So if we stay within this hip hop theme, he's become a big YouTuber, controversial. But again, there are things in these conversations that I think those of us who are not in those conversations per se, myself particularly, can still make use of. And if we are engaging with students, as I do, or others in these spaces who might be familiar with this or be attracted to these conversations, I think there are other ways we can, So anyway, but this stuff to me is just fascinating. So anyway, yeah. So I see one of our guests is about to get here, but anyway, let me ask you this while we're waiting on them, just real quick. Brother Kaba, unfortunately, I did miss your show this week. So what happened on Monday, man?
So we talked
WPFW.
about we talked about mandates, and the whole push for mandates and so forth. So that was a very good conversation. I shared some information, some testimony from some folks about that, and then also I talked with Brother Keedy, the Conscious Rasta from the West Coast. He's going to be coming. He'll be in the DC area tomorrow. He'll be at Everlasting Life, discussing his new book on health and things. So he's
man, Everlasting Life, man. Wow. Yeah. I again, the theme of DC today. I miss being in that spot. Man, I'm trying to remember the smoothie I used to get after every show.
The Strawberry Heaven.
Get those smoothies. That was one of them, but there was mine had an almond base in it.
Oh, the almond. It's the almond. It's the almond. I forget, Almond Dream or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The dream was in the title. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So anyway, good vegan food, good vibes. I enjoy being up there. So anyway, that's good. So tomorrow night he'll be in there. Is that what you said?
Yeah, tomorrow at 7 he'll be there.
Right on. All right, right on. Okay, so let's do this. I see a couple of our guests coming in. Let's get to it because we don't have all that much time, and I will invite them if they're interested to join us for this Kanye conversation, at least that we'll get to in a little bit. But to do this, let's do a quick transition here, and then I want to play a little bit of a clip that has been put out, the mini movie or the movie premiere party promo that got me pretty amped, and then we'll come back and talk to these folks a little bit about some DC hip hop and beyond. So don't go anywhere. Right back here in just a second. I mix what I like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
That's what I met a lot of those people that was like really blown away, you know, but they welcomed me in, and I'm just catching on to a wave at that point. Right. Plus, you had Howard University was thriving with hip hop at that time. I mean, DC just in general, you know, like that era was thriving.
Look at that tease. That's it. I was like, what? Anyway, let's bring. I see a couple of folks are here. Khalil, when he gets his camera on, we'll add him to the stream. But let me at least welcome. Brother here. And my bad, man. Who am I? Who do we have here? I'm all confused with who's doing what, man. My fault.
Yeah, I'm Phil Henry. I'm the narrator, and you're being joined by my man Khalil here.
All right, right on. Okay, peace, so peace. I got peace. So Khalil, just very quickly, I was trying to be a little bit professional and respectful. Khalil Gill was intimately involved with the hip hop culture during the 1990s and is both an insider as well as an external reviewer. His passion and experience in storytelling and oral history can be seen in his interviews with the late Wayne Curry, county executive of Prince George's County, Maryland. Khalil has a BFA in illustration and an MA in digital arts from the Maryland Institute College of Art, MICA. Shout out to MICA. They produced a number of good folks and worked with a number of good folks over there that I've had the pleasure of engaging with. And he has clients and projects including MNCPPC, PBS, Harlem Health Promotion Center, Help Hip Hop Educational Lyrics. That's Asheru, right? Isn't that working with Asheru? Or is that something else?
Yeah,
was that?
I did all the covers. I did all the covers for the Help magazine.
Oh, right on. Okay, very good. And Phil, right? Phil Henry, right? That's you, right?
Right. Yeah.
My man, my apologies. You, okay, let's see, is a screenwriter, narrator, score contributor, raised by two immigrant parents in PG County, Maryland. Phil has been entrenched in hip hop music and culture since he was 17, from writing articles to producing songs for local artists. But things changed when Chakra Ashram invited him to his first freestyle union session. Fast forward about 20 years, and Phil is still committed to the music and the business of it when he is reunited with the rest of his AMPHBN brothers and decided to complete a mission that has now expanded into digital programming and film alongside music. His voice can be heard narrating fresh convos, a DC hip-hop oral history. So welcome to you both. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm very excited to hear about this project. What is the? Tell us about this DC oral history project, and why one should be necessary.
Well, I'll definitely love my brother to step in there, but until he gets his camera back, I'll say that this is a project that actually was firstly initiated by my brother Chakra Ashram many years ago as a photo book project. And over the years, the desire to really document the experiences that we had from 1995 till roughly 98 should be exposed to the world. We all aware of the DC artists that quote unquote did make it. But there are a host of others, a whole scene that thrived and produced some incredible artists of all kinds, within the culture. And we decided to, really take it upon ourselves, at least being, current practitioners of it and still, lovers of our city, to try and document at least a portion of the history that we have, as part of a larger project that we plan to do. It was part, this mini documentary was really an opportunity to give everyone a really big spoonful of the history that we were a part of, and we can only thank the DC Council of the Humanities for allowing us a chance to, basically, use a number of our own clips from recent interviews of one of our shows on Instagram to create this this brief glimpse into what was definitely one of the most incredible times of my life.
Right on. Khalil, I know I want to let you jump in, but if you happen to have any headphones, please grab them, because I think the sound was a little bit janky. So if you got them, please drop them in. But just real quick, while I'm also interested to hear, like, for those who might not be aware, how is DC's sound supposed to be described? In other words, like what kind of, where does it fit in? Is it East Coast? Is it Southern? Is it West Coast sounding? Or what are the varieties that of what I don't know, subgenres of hip hop that might have been heard or be heard coming out of DC?
Well,
either of you can answer that. And
I'll let Khalil
then I'd also want, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, y'all can hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing about the DC sound. I guess it's a hip hop based. Because I mean, you do have a certain folks who's more on the East Coast sound, and you have certain folks who was inspired by a certain kind of rap-a-lot sound. And then if we're talking about the youth, we got those are inspired by what's going on now. But I think the DC sound is just it never, I feel like it never had a perfect like description, like, oh, that's them. Oh, they're from Atlanta. It sounds like that. So I would just say it's I would say it's hard to describe, because like, let's say I could describe those things that like let's say our stuff, I guess it would be like maybe an East Coast base, but it's also different because you also do grow up here. So I know I got influences from the other genres. I mean, the other, so whereas like some of my hip hop friends, might not listen to some of this other stuff, but I also grew up on this. So I also grew up listening to everything from rap-a-lot as well. So I would just say it's diverse.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just wanted to give, and then just one other quick thing before we get to the specifics of this. Where does go-go music come or go or not, or influence or not the DC hip hop sound, or historically or even today? Is there?
I mean, there's no denying the foundational aspect of go-go music for DC in particular. There's no denying that, from Chuck Brown on, in terms of his level of musicality and his influence on generations of young Black musicians in DC. There's no denying the prominence and evidence that go-go is DC's music. But I believe as time went on, and being that, we have generations of artists here who are otherwise isolated from the rest of the quote unquote industry. The influences come from a variety of places, I believe, and they kind of coexist side by side. Whether in harmony or not might be a point of contention, but they do. You can look at an example like Missy Elliott out in Virginia. She her influences were not apparent at all, and she will tell you that she wasn't listening to anybody out there. Her and Tim out there were just very isolated, and that's something that I can definitely relate to being in Maryland, Bama here. But watching my brothers in DC, create what they created, I definitely saw the beginnings of an identity that we were building. I couldn't put a name on it, but I can definitely feel it when I hear it.
As I'm gonna jump in on that point, because before living here, it's interesting you mentioned Missy. because before living here, I lived down in the 757 for like 6 years,
Right.
and I noticed, and I'm not from there either, but I noticed that they have a much more hip hop, like much more East Coast hip hop kind of influence down there for sure. Like it's like a really, and so when I moved to DC, I just assumed that because DC was more north, that DC would be more like that as well. But it is not. It is absolutely not in terms of just the population and hip hop. I mean, it's like that area down there is heavily hip hop, deep hip hop. Like you would listen to the radio station down there, and they be playing album cuts from like Busta Rhymes and
you're right,
and a Tribe Called Quest, and you can hear that stuff on the radio. Shout out to my man DJ B down there. He's from Philly originally, but that hip hop sound was there. So here in DC, I noticed that it was not, and I think you just answered, my question, as to why that is, because of all of the different influences, the go-go, and then just DC kind of being itself and wanting to kind of carve its own niche, because it's always not necessarily wanted to be in New York shadow, so to speak. And New York is kind of like the DC. And I remember just going to school in Hampton, and like literally DC and New York cats used to fight. I mean, like cats used to get kicked out of school for fighting over Metro, which was DC, and the tri-state. It was a crazy thing. Yeah.
Right on. Oh, hold on, Khalil. Let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So, I mean, let's say we'll talk now about things and have a much more rosy view. But okay, it was a hip hop over here, go over here, and they don't mix. And the two people didn't mix. It was almost like the Hatfields and McCoys. It was like so let's say I'm naturally from New York, so I've always rapped, right? But I've always growing up, it was always like that's that New York stuff. That's that New York. I never understood why New York was why New York was hated so much. But
because y'all claim everything and be everywhere and get all the attention. I mean, it's like
I think there was some other things going on there, some other competition going on.
Of course.
Other businesses and stuff. But
yeah.
For sure.
But I mean, if you coming up here, like you still learn so much from a go-go. So like, let's say the first thing I ever had, I was in a go-go band in 5th grade. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, I don't know any of these neighborhoods. We need to write them on down because I don't know Detroit Park. I can't just say these things, But you still learn a lot from the go-go, the culture of rocking the mics and just dancing and being in the crowd. It wasn't just, but it was like a split. So eventually, more people started doing music, so they started to, I guess, converge possibly. But it used to be a split, like straight down the middle, and it was like a lot of artists from here didn't want to rap. But I mean, I'm just happy to see that over time that things have, taught a lot of classes, taught a lot of things with the students as far as kind of just showcasing what this is. So it's not just on TV like the New York thing, because like, let's say we was doing these things years ago. So, we have a history here as well. So,
all right. So let me ask about a couple things here, because there were even a couple references in that little clip that we got to see. So first of all, actually, let me also do back up for the business part of it, at least, or some of the detail, like where can people see the full documentary or the mini documentary in its entirety as it stands right now? And then I do want to talk a little bit about some of the names that were dropped in there: Black Broadway, U Street, Freestyle Union. Let's talk a little bit about what these spots meant. State of the Union. Did I say that already? I saw that. I saw that in there. I was like, wow, man. I mean, even that was my spot. Like I was even in that joint. So like, I mean, like, and what I liked about it back in the day, I don't know if this, what I liked about it, and this is just personal, because the top of State of the Union, it was a reference to V.I. Lenin, and Lenin's picture was on top of the joint. My father, for a while, had the nickname of the Black Lenin because he was a dark-skinned dude looking like Lenin a little bit and had, similar politics. So when I used to go there, I used to be like, Dad, there's a light-skinned picture of my father on the joint, and I'm going into the spot. But anyway, yeah, exactly. I'm supposed to be here. But talk about a little bit about that. But first, tell us about where we can go to see this documentary as it stands.
It will be available on our YouTube channel. I believe there is. We do have the launch party up there right now, but the official cut, I believe, will be available very soon. Right, Khalil?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, we'll make sure the link to all of that is in the show notes to this shortly. In fact, yeah.
No problem.
Wonderful.
But anyway, but let's talk about some of those spots. So what was when we talk about Black Broadway and or U Street and these spots and the Freestyle Union? Tell us a little bit about the importance of these spots and what they meant and how they figure and how they show up in the stories that people are telling.
I mean, these were venues and events that were the most receptive to hip hop artists and culture in the city. And this was something that was spread through word of mouth, of course, back then. But when it did spread, it attracted really unique and remarkable people. These venues not only, received us, but received various acts across the country that we got to see before they even came out, things like that. Landmark performances from our own brothers in the Freestyle Union, which was basically a workshop for us as young people into hip hop who wanted to hone our skills. It was also where I met most of my best friends. Like this guy right here. And we went through a lot being hip hop heads here and being hip hop artists here. And so those venues mean a lot to us. So, tons of memories of trying our songs out on stage, seeing cats, doing beats live on stage, seeing cats kick over buckets of water on stage, seeing. I mean, my wife was just marveling at how this guy looked performing like 6, 7, like all those years ago. She couldn't believe it. She could not believe this guy was on the mic next to these grown men, rocking out. So I think, those spots just hold a lot of really strong memories for us in terms of our progress, our pride, and being here, the sense of opportunity that they actually offered us versus anything else that was going on in the city, and made us feel good about being here and made us feel good about loving hip hop. And we hope that we were able to capture some of that, in the film.
Man, let me say something too about the venue, man, because that's very important too. We talked about the hip hop, but one of the things I noticed too when I got here, because I used to go to a lot of those places, like Monday night it was Bar None, Tuesday night it was Mangoes, every night you had a night, right? Yeah. So, but I noticed, man, like when you mentioned like certain people would only go to certain venues, like when you mentioned like those are places for hip hop. Like I would be, because not being from here, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to such and such because so and so is playing there. And they're like, well, right. I don't really go over there. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because DC is very venue specific, and in terms of the people that go to the different places.
Well, for example, I have a part in the film where we're talking about Republic Gardens and State, and how the women will come and they can't get in the Republic Gardens. So do they come to State? They're not gonna
can I just set the tone for folks who might not know? People got to like on U Street, State of the Union was right next door to Republic Gardens, and State of the Union was no dress code, whatever. Come on in. Republic Gardens
hole in the wall.
You gotta be this. You gotta be
Armani suits.
You gotta have exactly, and it was like a whole
belts.
Hey, look.
So I used to walk by Republic Gardens because I was like, I can't dress like that. I don't have money like that. I don't want to be. I was like, I never went in that joint. I just
look. I have never been in Republic Gardens. I never ever went in Republic Gardens ever. Republic Gardens was Diddy. and State of the Union was boot camp click.
That was it.
That's
that
it.
was
Man.
it. Perfect.
Man,
Thank you.
That's perfect
Well,
right
well-
there. I mean, you blew my mind with that description. Like, God damn, yes, indeed, that's exactly what it is.
The worst part is, gentlemen, that I actually did step in there one time. Yo, it was one long closet, man. That was it.
Yeah.
It was one long closet cramped with women and linen. That was it.
I went in there. This is where one of my favorite funny. I went in there at least twice. Once was actually for a New Year's Eve party, which turned out to be a lot of fun. I had a good time.
I'm sure.
But the other time I went in and it was just like a long closet. I was like, wow, even in my best threads, I'm underdressed. I can't afford this joint. Everybody is too pretty and clean. I was like, this is DC. I was like, I got to get out of here. And literally went right next door and got more comfortable. I was like, I'm definitely not, and plus you had to wait in that long ass line and all that other stuff too. It was like, this is crazy. Anyway, so I'm sorry, Khalil, but please go ahead, man. Yeah. Or whoever, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Khalil, go ahead. Did I cut you off?
Oh, no, you didn't. I was just in my head because I'm like, you guys are talking exactly about a scene from the film. You know what I'm saying? And like, I make sure I do this thing where like I show like I showed like the fact that what the image that was on a State of the Union, but it's also just going to be a reflection to about like a certain era, because like I couldn't, you can imagine like that being on the building built right now.
No. Right now.
No. But I mean,
I did have. Oh, my bad. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say it was such a unique place, such a unique time. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I didn't. I was cutting you off. Because I just remember there was my one other memory of I did go to Republic Gardens once, and this was so perfect. I had parked my car in the garage at under 14th. What was it? What was that spot at 14th and U where I used to see the Go-Go's? Club U, where Club U used to be. Yeah. And I had parked in the garage under there. Go to the Republic Gardens. I met a sister there. I'm rapping to her. Everything's going well. This is like a success story for me. We leave the club. Everything's beautiful. Walk down the block to the car. Okay. She sees what I'm driving, and it was like a movie. I promise you. She literally face dropped. The night was over. She was like, she took my number like this. Wow. And was like, and I was like, because I was driving a Toyota Tercel. And it didn't even hit me until we got to the car. And I was like,
you one of these light skinned.
Gonna work.
Look,
you one of these light skinned grad student, man.
Probably. You one of these light skinned cats in DC.
Georgetown Law School. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You might be coming from Towson.
Yeah.
It was just a mess. It was so funny. I looking back, it was so funny. And even in the moment, it was funny. But it was a perfect reflection of that's why you can't try to rap to somebody at Republic Gardens. I should have been hollering at somebody in State of the Union. I might have been all right. Anyway. So listen, there was one thing. So I was rapping with your boy Stephen Jones early this morning, and because I'm looking at the clips and I'm watching stuff, and of course I started getting into my own personal biases, right? So I'm watching the clips and I'm saying, I don't see Maimouna Youssef, I don't see Head Rock and Infinite Loop in the joint. I don't see where, and I was like, Steven, I was like, we about to, and then so he was like politely, as he was like, look, man, calm down. This is the first of we're just the first of a mini doc of an expanding project. And then I even told him, I was like, even where's my Decipher hip hop crew? I saw DJ RBI in a joint, but I didn't see Two Toe Jones. I didn't see the rest of the Decipher. But I was like, we did a little, and I was like, but anyway, on that one I was actually joking. He was like, no, we're gonna interview you too. I was like, no. I don't belong in this. I'm not enough for this. I was late and in the background, but. How are you all, but in terms of that general question, because I know I'm not going to be the only one that's going to be like, I didn't see such and such, and then where was such and such, and who was such and such. I don't know. What are your thoughts about any of that, if you have any, about
Well,
how this is put together, who's
I
involved? Yeah,
And what's the criteria? What's the criteria for selecting who?
that's a
well,
good
well,
question.
so okay, so it's like a specific era. So it's, I would say, probably about from 95 to 97, 94 to 98. So
Mm,
a lot of those names weren't there based on age and other things. So, but like I do have some Infinite Loop in there, and I do got some RBI in
okay,
there, but this is specific to Freestyle Union thing. So once I was
got you.
doing this, I hit it like, okay, so I don't want to use this multiverse thing, but like it's this U Street, like everybody has these stories, and sometimes like stories overlap and they converge and they mix
Oh,
and
yeah.
but they're all these stories happening at the same time. So
Yeah.
my
Right.
story is not going to be his story, and so but I wouldn't want like anybody to feel like, oh, let's say left out or whatever. I would just
Well,
be like, but now
that's
it's time to.
unavoidable.
Oh no,
It's inevitable. There's always going to be somebody
right.
that's like, I wasn't in that. I don't.
Yeah, but I want to be more inspirational. Like, so tell your story. So tell, because it's if we didn't tell this story wouldn't be told. So
Right.
nobody's going to tell your story. You have to tell your own story. And
Yeah.
it's also I said it last night, but you want to tell your story before you forget it. Because let's say we could talk about U Street and it's so amazing and all these things, like
Yeah.
but they're just like, floating conversations that people have in passing. You remember, but like to really showcase this moment in time. Like when at the premiere, I had people crying. Like I know these men; these aren't criers, But it's emotional to see a paradise, and like it almost because you'll walk through U Street now and you'll be like, so I remember these corners and these blocks, but why does it all feel so different? And it's like a very weird thing, but
It is.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
every
just
every time I go down there, I see the same thing, man. But I must say, now I'm gonna press y'all. Now I know that you got
Right.
Priest the Nomad in there, and I know that
Mm-hmm.
y'all featuring Opus Ackerman. I know they got to be in there.
for
Okay,
sure.
okay.
Oh,
I
for
was gonna
sure.
say,
Oh man.
I saw
And-
Poem C's were in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
But
okay,
so
all
like
right.
Landmark.
It's official
this is
then. It's official.
Yeah, these are
this is
landmarks.
actually, it's actually just like a great
And I saw Tony
advertisement.
Blackman too. In fact, I reached out to her to see if we can get her to come through too.
Oh,
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, for sure. This is a
Yeah.
great advertisement for it because they're in it in the wonderful ways. And
Oh
like
yeah.
I was so
Patrick and
happy just to be
Dirtle.
able to showcase these folks because like these are my big brothers, so you'll see it when you see me alongside Priest and I look all the 12 years old and Priest don't, but
I
like we're
mean,
both exchanging and we're both rapping, but I'm talking about how much I learned from all of them, how much I used to just watch them and how they rapped and how they moved, and that can get dictated how they flow. But yeah, most definitely, because because I don't know if you all are familiar with the Fresh Convos. So this was actually a grant.
Just vaguely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
go
I
ahead.
mean, so at first it was we just interviewed us, and in the second season we interviewed some other people in the culture. So the actual grant was for to get it from here. So it wasn't like we went and shot any new footage. It was the interviews that we already had. And so we chose some of us, but we definitely had to have Poem C's in there, and definitely have Tony, because so many things start with Tony, and I'm just so happy that I was in contact with her early this week. Like, yo, you have to see this because it's since I was so young when I came in. Like, I always want to make them proud. So, and I feel like I really made them proud by showcasing just a glimpse. The word mini is used. I understand. It's about 25 minutes long. It's not that many, but it's many in as far as like it's just a whole universe of this U Street culture, and just getting a chance to showcase that, just to give to put you all in like a time capsule, like a literal time capsule. For 20 minutes you can just be there, and if so
That's
I'm
dope,
just,
man. And
yeah.
and I love the multiverse reference that you made. I think that works. That works well.
Yeah.
So just quickly, what's coming next for this project? Is I know Steven was talking about there's a plan to raise more money and do more on this. But or just what is the state of that, and then also what is the state of DC hip hop today, and then yeah, like U Street is gone, like gentrification. DC's not even Chocolate City anymore. Like what's the future looking like?
Well, we are working on setting up several screenings for the film across the city, even Maryland, and perhaps even Virginia. We will notify everyone about those screenings as soon as we can. As far as the current state of DC hip hop, well, from what I understand, from what I've been seeing and feeling in the past year or so, there is a lot, what I would have to only call a flood coming very soon. A lot of the artists that we refer to in the film, and a lot of the younger artists that we're in touch with today have been very charged up, very fired up. There've been some incredible singles from Priest and other artists from last year, Black Indian, and there's a lot of promising releases and interesting events that are building up a lot of momentum in the new year, especially in Baltimore that we've been hearing about, and events in Maryland that are starting to pop up again. I would say the DC hip hop scene is waking, is in a way kind of getting charged up again in a lot of ways. The Infinite Loop with Bad Human Art House, they've been churning out a lot of great work, great videos. My Amphibians brothers, we are slowly cooking up something very wonderful for everybody. We have a lot of we have decades of material to go through, and we hope to share that with you alongside some new offerings as well. Not gonna put no dates or titles out there, but just to say that we are definitely a part of that flood also. So DC hip hop is going to be, I feel very strongly, it's going to make a strong splash next year, with a lot of incredible music, a lot of incredible projects of all kinds, outside of hip hop even. We have a lot.
That's beautiful. Well, I'll definitely want to stay in touch because I got, selfishly, I got a world according to hip hop class I'll be teaching at Morgan State next semester. I'd love to bring you all in the film over there.
Sure.
And do some more stuff around. Anyway, anything I can help to have you all back on this platform as well. Yeah. Oh yeah, right on. So we can definitely, I'll definitely love to help with that. Sure. Again, you're always welcome back to this platform, and hopefully we can get others involved with the project on as well. Khalil, any other follow-up comments on that? Anything else you wanted to make sure we all got word of this morning?
Oh yes, indeed. So we're going to be trying to get I already have a couple of theaters that actually want to show it, but now I feel it's also time to take the project on the road, because as far as the film, so when you were just listening to you talking about your class, and it just hit me like this is history, this project, this is history, this could actually be in a class and be taught.
It will be, at least in one.
No, indeed. Sorry. It's because working on this, it just brings back so many memories and so many feelings, and I'm just happy that I can show off this moment in time, and I can show off my story, because my story is and my brother's story, and we're all connected, through Freestyle Unity. So I'm glad that I could just show the world what made it so special to us, because it was special.
It was magical.
I was talking with Ashley Rue, for hours or whatever after the night, just talking about the whole thing. Man, Gil, y'all got one here. Because it was after we finished it, and it was okay, so everybody could talk. Nobody had anything to say. They were they were silent, not because they're not talkative people, but because they were emotionally
Just digesting.
Emotionally, yeah, like 'cause it was so deep. Like I would just, I'm just happy that it had that effect. But it is because it captures a moment in time that was just so unique and so honest as far as even like the interviews, and it was just. I'm about to go watch it when we're finished, But I'm just happy that we're having this, and it will be even because the more people that see it, the more that people get to know. There was one person who was there, who was watching it. I never met him, and he was like, "Man, I'm watching this, being like, I grew up in DC, being like I don't fit in because I like the hip hop, and then nobody liked it, and I was picked on and something, and all these things, and like." And I was like, looking. I was like, man, I had a community, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah,
they were right on U Street. Like I had a community that I could fit in, but I didn't know it. Like it was like a secretive thing. But I'm just happy that
now,
I
I think
can share this.
technically, I think to answer this question, Asheru, like a lot of folks, I don't think was born in DC, right? But he came, he moved, he came there after college, right, and something like that. But he certainly lives there. He's certainly part of this history. Just to try to answer that specific question, he's definitely DC hip hop, and I'd like to say that we have from when a visit when he was with the L's doing a live version in studio at the mighty WPFW.
I remember that.
Of the Boondocks theme. I still think that's one of the best performance live joints of that song that's there ever been. They had, the L's, that crew.
Real
quick, man.
I think I recorded that event. Like, okay, like the L's performing it. I got that.
Yeah, I remember that. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Hey, look. One time, very briefly, a few years back, I was driving Uber, and I actually picked the brother up and took him in an Uber drive. We had a nice conversation just about his music and everything, man. So it was crazy.
Oh wow, that's what's up.
Yeah.
Hey, just real quick, I'm not. I don't know if I have the timeline right. Is the Kaffa House? Did the Kaffa House factor in this history, or is that later?
Oh, for sure. Man,
Thursday night.
That was Thursday night. Advertisement. This is the best advertisement for this doc, because everyone say, "Is this in there?"
Kaffa House,
it's definitely in there.
Yeah, Kaffa House was everything. Kaffa House was everything. I mean, Kaffa House was the first time I realized what I find special about DC, especially with what Go-Go did. I think what people tend to forget is that Go-Go actually produced generations of young Black musicians, drummers, guitar players, bass players, playing at 13, 12, 14, 15, 16 years old for years in their bands, whole generations of young Black musicians, here. And I saw what that produced that night at Kaffa House with Live Society and Black Indian. I mean, only in DC could something like that actually, I think, could happen. Where a cat would feel compelled to rap over his man on the drums, doing, going for broke, getting out of the go-go pocket and getting into a little bit of a funk pocket and everything. It was incredible to see.
And they could play everything because my man, doing this Gotta See Us, them cats was playing everything. And I can remember on Monday nights at Bar None, the Sound Poets, a lot of them guys came from go-go bands as well.
Man, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, me neither. I was like, wow, okay, I remember that. Okay.
I know we got to put that on the list.
But let's say so I'm like, I would think one of the things working on this project was like it's so hard to find resources of things that happened. It would almost be like if it didn't if you weren't there, it didn't happen, because there's like no digital footprint. So hard to find.
So this is speaking. Oh my God! So I missed the whole Freestyle Union as it happened. Like I never got to be there. Fortunately, it happened too late. The one time I got on the mic at the Kaffa House and bombed miserably. Thankfully, there's no recordings of that, and it never happened again.
You never know. You never know.
You never know. So I wait till somebody's trying to cancel me.
Although we might find it. You don't know.
No. Don't find that joint unless you need a blooper reel. Unless you need a blooper reel and you try to, just have some fun.
Got the magic touch. You'll do.
But I was at. Speaking of things that if you weren't there, I don't know if it's going to be remembered because it's not there anymore. Cafe Mawanaj. That was right there on the corner, right next to the Howard Theater. This would have been the early 2000s, Black-owned cafe. It's right now, whatever that fancy new restaurant is right next to the Howard Theater. That's where the Cafe Mawanaj was. And Mawanaj was a reference to the Haitian Maroon, freedom fight. There was a freestyle union reunion in that cafe in the early 2000s. The joint was packed. Literally standing room only, like couldn't even like standing room like this only. Like I remember I had a camera. I think I must have. I don't know. Like I tried to take a picture and I was like everybody was in that joint. So and I just remember feeling like, and this was like a residual vibe from something that had already really happened. And I was like, damn, like this is amazing. So anyway, if you all ever find footage of that, I know this is outside of that particular window, but it was a reunion of all these cats. Like somebody's got to have something.
There will be some effort definitely to bring things to the present day and get everyone up to date on where we are. But I am not surprised at all that a reunion. We just had another reunion recently about last year. And we, seeing several of us still here, still active and still loving the culture, and Tony was still, had the family atmosphere and everything, So I'm not surprised, that last reunion was packed and insane because that was maybe a couple years after things kind of cooled down a little bit, probably.
Yeah, it was after. I mean, it was definitely like we're trying to remember, something that has been, past, but it was just a powerful thing. So, listen, fellas, I really appreciate you coming on. A last minute arrangement. I'm very happy. Please let's stay in touch. And good luck going forward. And know that this platform is here to support you. I'm individually here to support you. So anything we can do, just let us know. And let's do this again at some point, man. I really appreciate it. And good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll be back in a minute right here at I Mix What I Like. Don't go anywhere. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, everybody. Welcome back to I Mix What I Like live here at Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball, brother Kyle Ba with us again, back as usual. That was a great conversation, and I will definitely facilitate as best I can all of you being in contact, brother Kyle Ba, and going forward. But if we can, let's keep it hip hop here and talk a little bit about this Kanye West interview, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I don't know to what extent you got to see the DrinkChamps interview, or how much of it you got to see. Okay.
Some parts.
I mean, there was so much to it, for sure. So anyway, I took some notes, but I think that there's some value to be made in it. I mean, there's as I said the other day, just quickly, I think I think we were on the remix. I haven't listened to Kanye West this much, I think, ever. Like I haven't paid this much attention to him off of his music, outside of his music. I don't really, track celebrity like that, other than for some, like professional or sometimes some rabbit hole and some trifling, this is just some trifling curiosity. But in general, this is not, but I do think it's important to have critiques or an analysis of these popular cultural celebrity type events or whatever, because at least for me, most specifically, they filter down into conversations in my classroom. That's where I usually am enticed and encouraged to check this stuff out and have something to say. But then also, I think more broadly politically, I think it's impacting the work you and I and others on this platform and elsewhere are, and certainly in the chat, are attempting to do in their political work. So, that said, I mean, he says, so the first thing that I kept that really hit me in a different way, maybe more than ever, is in listening to him, is being really reminded of how far away cognitively and even experientially we are. Like, I mean, and to be fair, man, I mean, to be that rich, that famous, from going back some years at that early age to now, I can't even imagine the impact of society on that, the relationships he's having, the experience.
More money, more problems.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, it was, and then I think because of the broader political climate and this interim moment between higher stages of political struggle and organization and where we are now, this vacuum has opened, and into it steps a lot of the celebrity driven conversation. So anyway, so there are 10 sort of broad points that and I'll just list them here very quickly, and then we could come back and talk about them more specifically, but that he raises that I think speak to some of these bigger issues. So one, at one point he says that he refers to himself as the leader appointed by God to pretty much save humanity. And though he makes allusions here, I mean, really, I mean, I mean, he really does believe he made that point repeatedly in that interview.
I'm Walt Disney. I'm Michelangelo. I'm, all of that. Yeah.
But even specifically, so at one point he's talking about, I texted Lauryn Hill and told her I am the leader. And her response was, well, you are a leader. And then everybody had a laugh. So first of all, let me bitch back up quickly. I love DrinkChamps as a show.
Clearly.
I do love the show. I love the show.
You did your own DrinkChamps on BPM one time.
I would do it more. Like, I would make my show that if I could. I love the show.
I mix what I like.
Mixed drinks, all that we do. But I mean, it's like, and I of course have known who Nori is, but I've never seen him in this capacity. I love him as an interviewer.
He's good. And he's excellent. Very good. Yeah, he's very good. Yeah.
And because he's so been ingrained and at points in his career at some of the levels of these folks, he really knows these folks. He really knows these stories. He really, and his own life experience has been, and he's a great interviewer. I mean, I think it's a fantastic, and shout out to DJ EFN, his co-host, who I think does a good job playing that role. I mean, I think it's great. The crowd they have there, it's a great vibe. It makes everybody relax. They're obviously smoking and drinking, so everybody's really, chilling. And it makes people, I think, open up maybe in a different way than and then because they're extended interviews, I think over time you see his guests relax, not just because they're drinking and whatever, but you start to forget the cameras there. You start to forget it's a real conversation.
That's why Joe Rogan is so important. Even I know people don't care for Joe Rogan too much, and I'm not saying that, but I'm just simply saying that when you have a good conversationalist who has an expanded platform, and even Rogan has said this, that you don't really get to see the real personality of a person and what they're really thinking and what they're really about in a few minutes, that you need like a long extended conversation. And he said, basically they'll reveal themselves, and he's absolutely right in that regard.
Great point. And I also love that Kanye kept calling Noriega his Joe Rogan. He kept saying, I come to my Joe Rogan to have this conversation. So I loved that he was saying, like, for us Noriega is doing what Joe Rogan is doing for them.
Right.
And I think that, so I love all of that. But although he makes allusions here or there,
and by the way,
yeah,
the hardest Nori song ever to me is that TONY, what he did with Capone and Noriega. That joint is hard, even today, man. That's on my workout playlist, brother. When I'm gonna do a real serious workout, you put that joint on. I put that joint on like 5-6 times repeat. By the way, just FYI.
Okay, all right, okay. Like, for instance, I didn't know that Kanye named his daughter after Nori.
I didn't know that either.
Like they mentioned that, like that, like that's that. I thought that was fascinating. But so anyway, my first point was just that he says I'm a leader, and though he makes allusions to our need to be organized, that's not really what his focus is. Because he has at this point which is another point, such an elite world view at this point. That as he kept making the point in his conversation and in name dropping references, his peer group are these other billionaires that he thinks can be sort of the beneficent leadership that will lead us into a bright future. So he does have this sort of a top down view of what can happen here. It's almost like what I was thinking of, one of the more recent books from Ralph Nader even was this argument that the billionaires have to be the ones to lead the change in the world. And then Kanye kept talking about this this Robin Hood thing, this old mythology of being a Robin Hood, of I'm gonna be able to help people and bring the resources away from them into you. And that's what my function here is. I would at some point, like, I keep, maybe we can come back to this also, but he did again, this comparison between Black folks and Jews, and why can't we do what the Jews have done and look at how Jews have acted, and his trips clearly to Israel have I think negatively impacted him in his references to the kibbutz, and we need like the kibbutz system and the Jewish sort of socialist styled communities, but there's no real engagement with the history of what that means and what happened with the kibbutz system in Israel, for instance, that it was destroyed. It was a fantasy.
It went kaput.
It went. The kibbutz went kaput. Exactly. But also the other sort of a simple, broad point is that Black people are not Jews, and so this idea that Black people can do what Jews have done is, I think, a wild flaw. It's also, I think, a wild flaw in the way the popular recitation of the history of Jews is carried, as if it's all good for Jews, as if the complicitness with empire that Jews have had to engage in to get what they've gotten is something we would want to emulate. All of it. So, for instance, when Kanye mentions all of his references to Israel and the kibbutz, he never mentions Palestine. He never says anything about the Palestinians. He's never talking about that group. So that's what I'm talking about. This dominant view. He's hanging with all these elite, billionaires, and they have somehow convinced him, Elon Musk and all these folks, that they are leading some sort of progressive revolution for the world that Kanye thinks that he is going to be part of. He did the whole thing. Now, I loved it when he went in on a number of folks. I'm not a fan of the phrase sellout. I admit that. John Legend and Big Sean, I think, was another one.
Yeah, Big Sean.
But I don't like when people use the word sellout. Oddly enough, as much as I'm critical of folks, I have a particular pet peeve about that, because I think there's a lot of nuance and context to understand what people's decisions are, what ranges of options that people actually have, and I think it's more important to look at the structures impacting individual behavior than the behavior itself. But I did like that he was calling out John Legend and Common for being the light-skinned dude that always gets punked out and run over and ends up supporting the Democrats. Now, while I obviously don't support Trump or MAGA, I like that he had that critique, although I thought it was funny. And I made a note here that he's always, he's got his light skin jokes, but then he also admits that he has a bias for light skinned women with big butts. And of course he now has children who are themselves light skinned. So I don't know what he intends for that to mean.
White women.
White women.
When before he talked about, the brother leave your ass for a white girl, and that he was talking about himself, I guess. Predicting his own actions, but
Common had a line like that too in one of his verses.
And then he ended up with what's her name, Chelsea Handler. What one of those? I forgot.
I honestly don't know.
It was one white comedian or something like that he was with for a minute.
Okay,
black men walking with white girls on their arms. I'd be mad at them as if I knew their mom. Yeah, real people. I know that song.
And wasn't that a track produced by Kanye?
Kanye West.
I think, yeah. So anyway, it always makes me remember that, and this is literal. Every single brother that I had childhood fights with, where my mixed identity was dragged into each one of them ended up with white women. Literally, every single one of them that we went to blows at the bus stop.
Yeah,
they ended up with white women.
You represented something that they actually wanted. You were the product of something that they actually really wanted, and so they, it was that whole reverse psychology kind of projection piece, the shadow, so to speak.
If you don't, there it is. Because if you don't like me, then you definitely need to stay away from the white girls, because that's what you're going to end. You're going to end up with. So anyway, but so anyway, I just noted that was an interesting and fascinating contradiction as well. Then again, speaking of which, another thing, like it was brought up on the remix that Kanye and others support for Larry Hoover, the now described political prisoner in Chicago. Because when they started and they had Larry Hoover's son in this interview to talk about his father and trying to get him out of prison, which I have no problem with. But my question in my notes was, other than the Chicago piece, obviously, how does Larry Hoover get to be the political prisoner you all are rocking this hard for? And we don't hear any mention of Mumia, Leonard, Asada. None of them were even mentioned. Nor was even the fact that political prisoners, broadly speaking, exist. That wasn't mentioned in the interview. But as was pointed out on our platform, Jericho Movement, and I did confirm this, does have Larry Hoover listed as somebody as a political prisoner who they say was captured in 1973. But anyway, so I struggle with that a little bit. I want him to get support, and I want people to be able to change. And I don't want really, maybe except for a select handful, I really don't like the idea that anybody's locked up in these dungeons like that. But and certainly the wrong people are locked up overall.
But the white woman that Common was dating, her name was Laura Dern. Laura Dern. She used to be
the actress
in Jurassic Park. The Laura Dern. I remember it was about 5 years ago. Yep.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Anyway. All right.
White folks focus on dogs and yoga. My people, in the streets trying to get over whatever.
Wow. Yeah. And Laura Dern. That's it. Oh, wow. Okay.
It's like Dern. Dern. That's the white woman you try. But anyway.
Dern. God darn.
Well, his name is Common. I guess he wanted a common white woman too.
Oh man. Anyone will do. Oh, that's terrible. Anyway, look, man. But I do come back. I did find myself coming back to that question of, I felt a kind of way, like, why, like, I felt a kind of way that Larry Hoover is considered a political prisoner. He didn't go into prison for political purposes in the way that we, acknowledge. And I understand there's the whole thing of we're all political prisoners and this, that, and the third, but he wasn't locked up because he was trying to lead the revolution. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, that distinction, does kind of, I don't know. But Anyway, so I just thought about that. I was like, why this political prisoner in particular, and not even reference to the existence of others? I was,
and that actually
intrigued
brought
by
Drake and Ye, because his name is now Ye. He actually legally changed.
Yeah, that's right.
Ye.
He did. Yes, he did.
That brought them together because they were beefing for a long time. And I think Jay Prince, the record producer, promoter, so from Texas, he actually was the one that kind of brokered that whole deal between all of them. So that was an interesting coming together too.
That is, and I'm glad, and I hope that they go on tour and make a whole bunch of money and do whatever. That's great. Yeah. Anyway, another one of the hits that I wrote down is that Kanye, who's very religious and very much into his Christianity, did the thing that bothers me maybe more than anything. He didn't suggest. He said that slavery was a punishment for our contradiction against God, or our move away from Jesus. And I have a very negative and almost violent reaction when I hear that kind of thing.
So now, what's the response? What's the answer now? Because we've been Christian for a long time in America, and we still catching hell. So I wonder what. But anyway, I mean,
but I think he somewhat answers in the interview, because he's saying we're not involved with Jesus totally enough. There. We're not, and he even acknowledged.
And the white folks are. The white folks are more Jesus. The white folks that are running the world and destroying the environment and all of that, they're more in contact with Jesus. Yeah.
Apparently, Elon Musk and these other billionaires he's running around with
who got money as a result of other white people giving them the seed based on the blood money, from imperialism all over the planet. These people didn't just come out of the ground. They actually got the seed money from all of that wealth that was ill-gotten. So, but anyway, that's a little bit too deep, I know, for Kanye, but I get it.
No, I mean, but it shouldn't be, because of the way. So, but this is the other thing. So it's
here's the thing though. Kanye's not well. We have to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kanye is not well. He's got this what do they call it? The disorder.
Bipolar. He said
bipolar.
He's bipolar on somewhere on that spectrum.
So
I don't know.
Any genius that is there is always going to be kind of like confronted or even mitigated by the other aspect. And then when you also add to that elixir, I know he's on DrinkChamps, but if you add to that elixir, just fame and I call it celebrity capture. It's going to exacerbate any issues that you have already. And then he has this platform, and so it's all of this. So he may give us some information that is useful, and I don't dismiss that. I know sometimes people get upset and they dismiss him out of hand. I'm with you in the sense that I can separate the broken clock that stays at 2 o'clock when it's actually 2 o'clock. The clock's right now.
The clock's right
now. Give it 30 seconds is another deal. But so I can deal with that.
And that's how the conversation went. Every 30 seconds he was off somewhere else. But no, that's sort of my point here. Like really what intrigues me enough to have wanted to take all these notes and to talk about it is that is one of the points that he is emblematic, maybe in an exaggerated form, of the confusion and the imposition of a hostile environment, of all the individual issues that we all suffer from. He is an exaggerated example of that, but and again, who does have a lot of impact and influence over people that we might want to engage and work with, or even love, and in that way, I think it is important to have some sort of, I would like to think, a substantive conversation about what he said. And to your other point about how those white folks made their money, this is something else that I made a note to bring up today, that when Kanye keeps making these, he repeatedly self-referred as a 9 billionaire, that he's now worth $9 billion.
He don't have that much.
No, he doesn't. His
he might generate that much, but he don't have that much.
So that was exactly what. So I did try to look into this just a little bit, and one of the things that there is some. So I think on one hand he makes the point that Forbes is cap, as he said. So that's why they diminish, they dropped. So they lowered his net worth. Others have speculated that it's closer to 6 billion. But the real point is, to your point, is that it's his brand that is worth, or potentially worth, this much money, and it's based on, to the point that we'll get to in another segment later this morning, and that I'm always talking about. It's based on what white investment and white consumption, as a starting point, is willing to what extent they're willing to engage. So it's not as if he has 9 billion that he can do whatever he wants with and do this, that, and the third. And it's not as if his continued good behavior is not required for that valuation to maintain and be maybe eventually realized. And it's also, in specific reference, less to his music and more to his relationships with Adidas, and Gap,
with them ugly ass shoes,
and whoever else is in this fashion world, for whom he is making many more billions.
So it's not capped. It's not capped that he generates the 9 billion. It's more that it's his market cap might be 9 billion.
Oh, you are bars all morning today, brother. It's just bar after bar. But that's it. His market cap is not the cap before, but it's the market cap, which is itself an illusion in a sense, because your market capitalization is based on the value of non-purchased shares in your corporation. So meaning that the venture capitalists who might eventually invest, or the wealthy who might eventually invest in your product or brand, they are seeing it as being worth X amount, and therefore it may, but it doesn't mean that you have this amount of money, and it doesn't mean that you have a power that is free from those other ties and relationships and influences. So that's why it's anyway. And then the other point that I made here is that is related to this last one, is that for all the trash talk we heard from Ye in this interview about Vivendi, the owner of Universal Music Group, although I thought they were selling it off, so that might have, I don't know if that sale is.
We talked about that once, yeah.
Yeah, I thought we did, yeah. Mm-hmm. But he kept talking about Vivendi being the dominant power, that he needed to destroy, or that he was now in position to combat, or whatever. But very similar to when he's talking about his name change, which I do think is related to controlling his masters and stuff like that, similar to the Prince issue, who he talked about. But in both of their cases, the point that keeps getting left out, as Kanye, at least, or Ye, at least in particular in this interview, is suggesting a level of power that is attainable maybe by either himself or others. It's based on Vivendi having already pushed him to this level of fame and popularity. In other words, for all this talk of what power and independence can now be achieved, it's only after the fact of a major white corporation pushing you for decades now at this point, to a level of prominence that you now enjoy. And it's contingent upon a certain level of political behavior. So anyway, to me, it's just another one of those contradictions of saying I'm now big enough to challenge the system. And it's that same thing of the mythology of Robin Hood. I have to be big enough, or Jay-Z said, how can I help the poor if I'm one of them? Well, you could do more to help the poor if you're one of them, if you join with them in organized political efforts to make change, as opposed to this idea as an individual, I'm going to go into this billionaire milieu and come out as a Robin Hood with a bag for all the people.
Or as a billionaire, he can actually join with the people, it's to your first point about that, he can do it all and maybe fund that, different things behind the scenes, like some of the celebrities used to do way back in the day with Malcolm and Martin and others. He could do that, as opposed to, but he's an entertainer first. So a lot of entertainers have a desire to be known and seen and given credit and stuff. And adulation is a drug, like any other almost.
He also, by the way, did another thing that I made a note of that bothers me. He misreads the history of Black History Month. So when he was saying in the interview that he doesn't, I don't want these months. And he said Black History Month, all it does is teach us about what we've suffered. We need a Black Futures Month, he said. Which I understand the point and the sentiment, but it's misreading. First of all, it's misreading what even Carter G. Woodson had intended with Negro History Week. That was his intent, was to do what Kanye is in fact saying.
Exactly.
It's not just to teach us about we were slaves so we could reflect on how horrible it was. It's to build us up so we can move on this thing and make change. So like that would be one point. And then also
it's supposed
obviously
to be the culmination of a year's worth of study.
Good point. That's right.
And then using that, to your point, to move forward. That was the whole point of it. Yeah.
And then also if obviously the old adage, paraphrased, is that without understanding that history, how can we understand how to move forward? And it's not disconnected from the present or the future. So this idea that we should move away from it. Now, I would agree. I would like to see Black History Month look more like Black August, or a reflection on the more radical traditions and a time to fast and train and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that was just something that I noticed as well. Anyway, I guess that's it. Those are my major points.
Well, in lieu of you and to save you, in a sense, to have your back, and also keep the focus, I have peeped in the chat a little bit, and
okay,
there's a bit of consternation around this conversation.
Sure.
around Ye, and so mainly people want to know why even bring up Kanye. Why are we even talking about Kanye, especially on Black Power Media? He gets enough airtime. Why are we doing this? And Sister Shirley is she's done. She's like, I'm out. Are they still talking about Kanye? Sorry, Sister Shirley. But why are we talking about Kanye?
Well, as I tried to point out earlier, for me, it's because, first of all, I think it is important to have a critique of what's happening in pop culture, and even in the celebrity world, because what he says and the reverberating perspectives from what he said do impact our work and our lives. And as I said, even more specifically, this was brought up to me by students in my classes also. So I feel compelled on some level to have a more substantive response to them initially, to investigate what it is they're looking at, what is impacting them so much. Why are they bringing Kanye West statements and responses into conversations we're having? And to speak intelligently, even to have a critique of it, I think it's important to engage. But I also think because of he is also reflective of a lot of the mythologies that we do contend with, and I contend with in my work, and perhaps myopic focus all the time, whether it's what the role of fame, celebrity, how people become famous, what can be done with celebrity and fame, what can be done with wealth that's accumulated, to what extent it is, all of those kinds of questions, the impact of corporate America or the corporate world on our politics and pop culture. It's been a consistent feature of my work and interest, but I
look at it.
Although
like
I
this.
do, and lastly, just quick, I'm sorry, lastly, to have the conversation here is very different than the conversations about this that are happening elsewhere. So I don't think that we're mirroring the discussions of this that I've seen elsewhere, or certainly the conversation that Kanye had with Nori. So
yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And to your point, I think Kanye is like too big to fail, in the sense that the reason why they tried to, he's too big to ignore. Like you said, you deal with your students. I have children, and they know who Kanye West is, and my critique, my conversation around Kanye has to be deeper than forget Kanye, he's crazy, he supports Trump, blah 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 blah, and that's it. That's not going to really resonate with my children, and probably not a whole lot of other children. I think we do need to have a critique, and a real critique is based on actually listening to what's being said, and then actually breaking down different aspects of it, and kind of making it easy to understand. So I think it is important, especially for those of us who deal with young people, that we do need to know, not everything with hip hop, but especially somebody like Kanye, who's such a big, player in this game, because the children are seeing this, and I think having the kinds of conversations around this that we're having right now, it will be beneficial for them, particularly for those of us who are adults and elders. We're not elders, but so some of y'all, anyway. But for people who are older, who are dealing with young people, I think it's important that we at least have a working kind of lexicon, so to speak, around this conversation, so that we can kind of better address, our young people. And then I'm going to fold that also into another person who's a lightning rod for a lot of people, who I also saw talked about earlier in the chat that you and I check out from time to time, and that's Jimmy Dore. Because a lot of people, and I heard the conversation yesterday on BPM, and I think it was a good conversation around Jimmy Dore and just what he is and what he's not. And it's similarly to Kanye. You've said this a number of times, and certainly I've said it, because Jimmy Dore, I mean, as long as he's white, I'm gonna always, look at him askance and be like, okay, I'm gonna have to look at this a little more with a lot more scrutiny. So I'm very clear as far as my politics are concerned. But as Malcolm says, I'm for the truth, no matter who tells it. There are certain points where he makes good points, and there are certain points where he doesn't. And I know yesterday they were talking about the fact that he was trying to defend Rittenhouse, and that's not the first time he's done it. I remember when those little white kids from the Catholic high school were at I think it was the Lincoln Memorial, I don't know, a year or two ago, and they were making fun of the indigenous guy. And he was defending them, saying, oh, they're just kids, they're just and so for me, even though I watched him then, I was like, well, he's just a white boy. At a certain point, it's gonna come out. Yeah, he may be good on healthcare and certain other policies and things, but to the point that you all made in terms about why there's a creation of Black Power media, not just Jimmy Dore, but others in the white left, they can, and we've talked about this several times here on this program, is they only go but so far. And so we have to have our own platform and our own to see things through our own lens, which is why platforms like this are so important. They're gonna go the white, left or faux left or whatever they are. They're only gonna go but so far. And to me, at a certain point, they all become right wing. Because at a certain point,
absolutely,
they all want to be, whether they left or not. Because at a certain point, they always want to be in charge and always want to dominate. And they talked about that a little bit yesterday in the conversation as well. So when I look at Dore and I check him out, it's always with a filter. And I believe this whole piece, no permanent friends. And I do believe we do have some permanent enemies, but we do have permanent interests, and our permanent interests are what are paramount for me. So if somebody is speaking to things that are, centered around our interests, I'll deal with that. I understand I got to have a filter and understand that, okay, at a certain point, I'm gonna have to cut this off because I understand he's going down the road, and he did the same thing with this Rittenhouse piece as he did with those little white boys, who are making fun of them.
I watched. So I didn't see all of our BPM discussion yesterday. I have to admit that I did. Unfortunately, my job interfered yesterday, but I did watch some of, so I haven't, so let me just say a couple things about this real quick. I feel like I've made this clear, but I don't always think it's being heard. There's something disingenuous happening in these discussions on this platform around Jimmy Dore and the like that I want to try to clarify here. The idea that Jimmy Dore for me means something more than what CNN or MSNBC might mean to some of our audience viewers in terms of collecting news is part of the problem here. That's sort of my point. So as I've been saying from the beginning, Jimmy Dore for me has been a replacement of MSNBC and CNN, where
Likewise.
I get that same standard news coverage, but from a little bit more of, I think, a critical and left relative to them perspective.
Correct.
And in some ways a funny and well-produced version. So again, I'm not watching Jimmy Dore for political analysis. I'm not watching Jimmy Dore because I'm his friend or want to be his friend. I'm not watching Jimmy Dore I'm watching him because I don't watch CNN anymore. Now, a lot of people who would joke me for watching Jimmy Dore would then themselves turn on the Daily Show or CNN or John Oliver or Bill Maher or all these other outlets that I never watch and get the same for the same reason. It's not that they love these outlets or these people, but they want a certain standard, US based news, and that's where they're going. So that's it. That's it. That's it. So and as I said the other day, when he started having the brother on, and I hate that it is this way, but when he started having that brother on from the Fred Hampton leftists,
well, I
can't watch it.
I texted y'all and was like, have y'all heard of these people? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I can't watch it. I literally have stopped watching Jimmy Dore over that because, again, my thing is I tune into Jimmy Dore because I want that standard analysis, and I'm taking this as a white space. I don't need a black version of that. I don't.
Well, thankfully, Jimmy Dore has a huge ego. So usually when he has guests on, he talks a whole lot. He'll have a certain segment where he starts running off and talking. So when that brother is on, I just fast forward to the part where Jimmy Dore goes back to his rants.
Oh, maybe I should try
that. That's what I do. But again, we understand the assignment, and we understand we also understand the source. So when we're checking these people out, there's always a filter.
But now that said, after this recent thing, I did the other day go and watch at least the first few minutes of one of his more recent broadcasts where he talked about Rittenhouse, and he played the video produced by
that's what they were talking about,
Matt Orfala. Is that the one
they were talking about that yesterday? Yeah.
Now, I don't know where it goes by the end of the conversation, but I don't see this as a defense of Rittenhouse. I see it as a critique of the dominant narrative, which, according to that video, is wildly wrong. So, in other words,
in the context of that the media just often gets things wrong, even in this particular case, because they're painting a certain narrative, and even to the extent, and the media does seem like they're siding more with the defense, the prosecution. But I think even that is within this whole context of the January 6th of Trump is bad, and they're trying to tie him to the Proud Boys because it's still a political. It's not about black people's lives, or even though I know the two men that died weren't black, but it was still around black people. It's that their concern isn't that. It's really about trying to get Trump and trying to get the Republicans because they're afraid. So I think that's really the impetus for them even covering it the way that they're doing now.
I think there's that. I also think, and I haven't really fleshed this out too much, but I also haven't seen it discussed elsewhere either, that I think part of the media bias in favor of against Rittenhouse is not only because of the Trump piece that you rightly bring up, but because also that to the other point you bring up, that his victims were white. And I think that on some level, this is being seen as a greater level of crime and criminality,
because those right wingers are now a threat to us. It was all right when they were a threat to the Negroes, but now they're coming for us too.
You can't be out here shooting white folks and think it's going to be okay. That's part of what I've been kind of watching and thinking is going on here, even though of course it would never be admitted or copped to. Or maybe even more overtly displayed, but I think that is part of it. I even sense some of that in watching the judge's defense of Rittenhouse, his own bias for Rittenhouse in what little I've seen of the trial. It seems like I feel like that's part of it too.
No, to Big Till's point, to be against Rittenhouse is not bias. What we're saying is that they're being against Rittenhouse. They're not good actors in this whole thing. That's what we're saying. That their reasons are skewed and flawed. Their reasons are not for justice per se. Their reasons are, the things that we just pointed out. The fact that that this is kind of tied to a political piece in the narrow sense in terms of the Republicans and Trump. That this guy's been, the pictures with the Proud Boys and all of that, and the police and so forth. So it's a very nuanced kind of point that we're trying to make in terms of Rittenhouse. We're not saying that this is no defense of Rittenhouse. He's not somebody that we're looking to as some kind of hero or anything. But what we're saying is that, go ahead.
Well, if you don't mind, now that it's been brought up and this is coming up, I don't think this was done on the show on the remix yesterday. I would like to play this piece of this Jimmy Dore piece where they go through this video that Orfala put together about Rittenhouse, because because what I think is happening here. So first of all, a lot of people because at least I was for a time watching Jimmy more regularly. What I understood him to be doing and to be attempting here is to say these blue check liberals are a fake liberal elite, similar to our own argument, who want to claim do the virtue signaling and the all of that stuff, but they don't really want an honest assessment of the society in any meaningful way. So Jimmy is starting there. So when it's my interpretation,
and they only want to tie it. They only want to tie it to Trump and the Republicans.
Exactly, and that's Jimmy's point.
Rotten. Yeah,
and that's what he's saying. So he's saying this whole thing is rotten. We need something more than the Democrats and the Republicans. He's not pushing Republicans or libertarians, and he's saying at minimum, which I support, we need universal health care, we need jobs, we need an end to war. Like I'm on page with that. Like let's start. I can rock with you on that, on those points. I'm good with that.
Right.
But then he's also saying that the attack on Rittenhouse is more about defending this blue check liberalism than looking at the more nuanced realities of what's going on in society and in these so-called protest movements and with the people who are involved and with the news coverage of it. In fact, that's why he's saying his show, and to a different extent ours, exists, because this mainstream keeps producing a very corporate, imperialist worldview and narrative. So I just want to, again, I don't necessarily know where I stand on this, but I only watched enough of this to see them play what I'd like for us to watch here for a few minutes, because I think it challenges the dominant narrative. And if they're wrong, I'm happy to be checked on it. And I'm certainly not advocating this as some sort of
right.
Whatever.
And to be clear, we're not fighting over no white man. And to answer the Sounds of Saint Elsewhere question, ready revolutionary. And then the Sounds of Saint Elsewhere said, because he's trying to court Republicans and right-wing libertarians and alt-right sympathizers. And he is. And again, back to my original point, because we have to remember he's still white. Yeah, okay. He's still a white man. So yes, but on those, but I would also. Well, I was just going to say on those particular points. Yeah. This is why we draw lines of distinction. So we can agree on certain things. The fact that we agree with him on certain points does not mean that we're fans of him.
No,
that doesn't mean that. We don't look to him for. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. We just say turn to Jimmy Dore. It's
I'm
the
not
fact
even
that
entertaining that.
Yeah.
Because this for me, I would use this and will use this in my media studies courses. Like this to me, because anyway, let me just play this. Let's just check this out and see what's what.
So here's what really happened. Here we go.
Rittenhouse case. Rittenhouse purchased an AR-15 rifle through his older friend, Dominique Black. Black is now facing charges for providing the gun to Rittenhouse, who was only 17 at the time. The gun was kept by Black's stepfather at Black's stepfather's house in a safe.
Now, Matt, let me bring it. That was in Kenosha, where that rifle was kept. So he didn't travel across state lines with a rifle, right? Okay, so that was kept at his stepdad's house. And how far away from Kenosha did he live?
Not far. 30 minutes max.
Okay.
20 to 30 minutes.
So like the difference between my house and Pasadena, where I used to live. Okay.
Practiced target shooting with the adult supervision of Black's stepfather, which is legal. The plan was to transfer ownership to Rittenhouse when he turned 18. On August 24th, after finishing his lifeguard shift at a pool in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Rittenhouse and Black spent the evening at Black's stepfather's house. There they watched live streams of groups protesting the police shooting of Jacob Blake. At night, the groups had turned violent, vandalizing and burning local businesses. In response to the unrest, Black's stepfather says he took the guns out of his gun safe for personal protection. The next day, at 10 a.m., Rittenhouse, his sister, and Black set out to help clean up local businesses. Rittenhouse can be seen here removing graffiti from a local high school. That same morning, Joseph Rosenbaum, who would later become the first man shot by Rittenhouse, was released from a mental hospital. He had recently overdosed on pills in an apparent suicide attempt after he physically assaulted his fiancée.
Dude, if you want to keep bleeding everywhere and bruises on her.
After being released, Rosenbaum visited his fiancée, but she would not let him spend the night. She said she feared he'd be arrested for violating a court order to stay away from her. She also says that she warned Rosenbaum to not go downtown and does not know why he did.
As far as that night, I have absolutely no idea why he was downtown. None whatsoever.
Later that night, Rosenbaum is seen pushing a flaming dumpster towards a gas station. When others put out the dumpster fire, Rosenbaum tries to start a fight over it and begins yelling at armed citizens.
No, come on, it's not worth it. Hey, stop. Hey. You're going to get me all shot. Everything you got, shoot me. Let's on me for real.
That night, Rittenhouse and Black were armed with rifles protecting CarSource, a business that had been vandalized the night before. For this, Rittenhouse is currently charged with possessing a dangerous weapon under the age of 18. That night, Rittenhouse also carried a med pack, offering care to injured protesters.
There's a medic right here if you need help.
What do you want? We're going to go over here. I am an EMT. If you are injured, come to me.
Later, Rittenhouse is seen with a fire extinguisher running towards another CarSource lot where protesters are breaking into cars and setting fires.
We've seen at least 4 people with handguns running around here. 3 or 4 subjects trying to light cars on fire.
It is in this lot that Rittenhouse has his fatal encounter with Rosenbaum. But it was another man, Joshua Zeminski, who had been protesting with Rosenbaum, that would fire the first shot. A camera filming cars getting smashed pans, and we see the 6'5" Joshua Zeminski step towards Rittenhouse. Zeminski's girlfriend motions towards Rittenhouse with her arm. Rosenbaum, now with his shirt off and wrapped around his face as a mask, lunges towards Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse runs away. Rosenbaum chases Rittenhouse. Rosenbaum throws a bag with his items from the mental hospital at Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse turns around, then turns back around and keeps running away. As Rosenbaum continues to chase Rittenhouse, Zeminski lifts his gun into the air and fires.
Oh, they shoot you!
The muzzle flash from Zeminski's gunshot can be seen from this angle. Rosenbaum keeps pursuing Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse runs into a bunch of parked cars, turns around, and fires 4 shots at Rosenbaum. Someone else fires 3 shots. Rosenbaum was taken to the local hospital and pronounced dead that night. Unfortunately, the bloodshed continued. But before we move on to the next shootings, let's review each camera angle available. While viewing, I ask you, the jury, to consider whether this is murder or self-defense. According to Wisconsin state law, a person may employ deadly force against another if the person reasonably believes that force is necessary to protect oneself from imminent death or great bodily harm. So the question is, was it reasonable for Kyle Rittenhouse to...
All right. So again, when I watched that to me, to the extent that editing and approach is correct, that changes the dominant narrative, which I remember from the beginning included that Rittenhouse traveled across state lines, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't true. Now, the one part I didn't hear them mention, I didn't watch the whole thing, but that is that for all the so-called good Rittenhouse claims or intended that he planned to do, I'm not sure why that required an AR-15. I'm not sure why you would pick that moment to get so involved. If you're, you know what I mean? Like, I saw the footage from, what was it, yesterday, where Rittenhouse supporters and Black Lives Matter activists were eating pizza together and stuff like this, outside the courthouse, I think, supposedly showing some sort of, I don't know, unity. But so I'm like, my levels of suspicion come from that. Now, in terms of the legality of the issues there, this video makes Rittenhouse look a lot more innocent than we would have initially heard. But again, my fundamental questions, start with, well, why would you go there in the first place? Why would you pick something, to your point, Kaba, a minute ago, that was associated with Black Lives Matter struggle? Why did that get you out here, armed up? And how many EMTs travel, again, with AR-15s, if that's your intent? Right. If your intent is just to clean up graffiti, and then why do you feel it's your need to protect property, and against what? So, like, again, if you're on my side, you're not going to be out there protecting cars in a car park. That's not why you'd be out there. The last thing I would want to say when I watch that, this is why I keep thinking, again, our engagement with protest and political struggle needs to be much more organized and clear. Because anyway, so anyway, those are just some of my initial thoughts and why I think Jimmy is showing this stuff. So again, Jimmy is not, I'm not, anyway, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
It's white on white crime. You know, I mean, I'm not really all that invested in too much one way or the other when it comes to this or whether he's innocent or not. You know, I mean, but at the end of the day, you know, Jimmy Dore is white, you know, and he's going to defend his white folks. You know, and he identifies with this guy, just like he identified with them kids that was harassing that indigenous man, you know. And so that's where I always draw my lines, and especially I'm not going to get too involved with white folks killing white folks. I mean, I'm just not. I'll just leave it there.
Well, I mean, but again, the only reason I would think to be involved, at least for the sake of discussion, is because the context of the white on white violence was supposedly around Black lives, you know, whatever, I don't know if it's BL, whatever, a Black struggle is it just feels like, again, the context of Black life and struggle becomes the playground for white safari adventures. Like that's what it felt like. It's like, you know,
it's like the Civil War. It's like the Civil War. I mean, you know, there's this Valhalla consciousness that, you know, this country has. I don't know if there's a decade in history where some European country has not been at war, like in a major way. And certainly in this country's history, I think it's only been a handful of years in the short-lived country history of this country where it has not been involved in war. But I used to always look at this daily history tracker, you know, and it was produced out of the UK. I think it's called On This Day. And you can just look at onthisday.com. You can look at every single day. There's like this year, 337, the Greeks and the Romans fought this, and 15 something such the French. I mean, it's almost every day. Certainly certainly every year they're fighting. So I think any cause, you know, for any cause, it's gonna rile up something that's gonna have some of these folks fighting, whether it's a Black person or not. So going back to my Civil War piece, you know, to me that just seemed like another you know example, another reason for them to get excited around this issue. Of course, it was around Black people, and that's enough to excite them one way or another. One was trying to save the Union, the other one was trying to take over or maintain its system as it was. But nonetheless, it was still an opportunity to fight. You know, so I think this particular issue is the same thing. When it came to these,
and by the way,
people, they wanted to fight and they got it.
And to your point, I didn't even, you know, if people watch the rest of that video, there's more to it in terms of, like, there was another white boy runs up on Rittenhouse. I mean, you know, I stopped it a little short because because I'm a little bit over it myself, but and this wasn't my intent this morning, but if you watch the rest of that video, Rittenhouse is, I mean, they chase him down. Like he gets punched. A crowd assembles around him, mostly, as far as I can tell, all white. A white boy with a gun reaches out and tries to get at Rittenhouse while he's on the ground, and Rittenhouse shoots him in the arm. The 6'5" dude that they showed in that video that he kills also had a gun and came at him. So it's like all these white boys running around with guns, shooting each other in the middle of what's supposed to be something concerning. And what gets ignored is that they were there because a police officer had shot Jeff Blake. I think Jeff was his first name, right? Justin, something.
Jacob Blake.
Jacob Blake. Thank you. So like that part has receded and been left out. And of course, you know, Jimmy and them don't talk about that. Jimmy and them, you know, they're not. Not. Again, I didn't. Maybe they did in the rest of that video. I didn't see that. I have not seen him talk about that. They certainly.
But that's not the focus. Even if you did, it's not the focus.
That's right. It's not the focus. It's not the interest. And again, Jimmy, just like everybody else, will talk all day about Assange and not mention Mumia or anybody else for a second. So I mean, I all of that is clear.
And I agree. Again, and I agree. He shouldn't. Look, he shouldn't have been there with a gun. I certainly, as a parent, would not want my minor child or any age to go in a situation like that, especially if you're going to quote unquote help, to go in there with a gun. That's for sure. So just as a parent, that would not have been admissible, you know. But again, you know, his mama thinks like him, so that's where he got it. He got it from his mama. So she wanted him to be a Minuteman and go out there and, you know, protect the country.
And she took him.
Property.
And they show video of his mother taking him. He turns himself into the police, and you see him in the interrogation room crying, and he felt terrible about shooting people because he's only there to help. But again,
bring a first aid kit.
And I mean, isn't it true that even in the military, the corpsmen don't carry weapons? He did have a first aid kit.
Yeah.
Do they arm the corpsmen in the military anymore? Like I don't even know anymore. But like I remember, like the Navy. In the Navy, they used to send, if you wanted to be a corpsman, you went to the Navy boot camp first, and then you went to Marine boot camp.
Tell everybody what a corpsman is, for those who don't know.
A corpsman are the infield medics, the people who go to combat as medics. And for a time,
they get training. Everybody gets basic training.
Yeah, they get training. That's what I'm saying.
But not everybody.
And they went to both boot camps.
Yeah,
that's right. And I remember because I was like, I knew somebody. I was like, you going to 2 boot camps? I was like, that's outrageous. You going to the Navy's and then the Marine boot camp. But at the time, I remember, I thought I remember him telling me that they don't carry weapons in the field because they're carrying all the medical stuff. But they probably had something.
But even if they don't, they would have a detail of infantry around them to escort them to make sure that everything's cool.
But to the real point, they know that whether they're armed or not, they know they're going into a combat zone. So this guy knew intended to make this a combat zone. And that's where I always get a little suspicious about whatever he claims his intent was, or whatever the guilt of the other people involved was. He took an AR-15 to this place because he, at least in part, initially wanted to protect private property and business. You lose points from me on that alone. And so again, if you're running away from the dude, now I'm forgetting all the names, from the white boys that you shot, if you're running away from them and you don't have, or if you engage them without a weapon in the first place, they're not going to be chasing you. And I don't feel like this is going to happen. And
why would they chase you in the first place? Yeah.
And they didn't show that part. Why did they start with the dude? And I don't know why this was his preferred, he wanted to get his N-word use off, in the moment, but he's saying, shoot me. Part of it is like, I mean, don't do that. Don't say that to armed people in the crowd. But that's where they start the video. Like, why was that where they start the video? Like, what happened to precipitate?
And Dore, with his biases, with his worldview, as incisive as he may be on healthcare and other things, and looking into the whys, because the most important question is always why. Like, why are we here? What is the point? How did we get to this point? He doesn't ask any of those questions around, just like he doesn't ask any of the questions around political prisoners or the gray zone. Don't talk about political prisoners.
Never.
Or most of the white, left, liberal, whatever. They don't talk about political. It's the same reason, because they have a limit. And so that's why we're here. So we can put all of that into context. And I think that's why we're having this conversation.
Right on. So speaking of white on white violence, did you hear also that Alec Baldwin might face actual charges? Because apparently somebody on the set is saying he wasn't supposed to be shooting that gun in that scene anyway. So why was he playing with the gun and shooting the gun when there was no cause in the scene, didn't necessitate a gun being fired? So why are you doing all that? I thought that was interesting.
That was a mess.
So normally we would be wrapping up about now. I don't know what your time is like this morning, but I do want to take a little time and get into a couple other things if you got time to stick around, at least a couple other things. And we appreciate those who are here. And again, while we're just taking this quick moment, you know what? Let's do a quick transition and come back and get into some other stuff and sort of take a virtual cleansing break from that previous discussion. We'll be right back. I mix what I like. All right, everybody.
Come on back, Shirley.
Come on back, Shirley.
Tell Shirley we finished talking about Jimmy Dore and Ye.
Yay. We done with all of that.
Come back home.
So, and then when you come back, like the brother Mathhoffer says on his, wipe your feet, show some respect, and click the like button when you come on in. Take your shoes off, wipe your feet, and click that like button, subscribe, hit the bell when you come on in. And we appreciate you for doing that, and appreciate you for joining us. And those who are seeing this later, appreciate you too. All right, so there were a couple other things that I thought to get to. Again, in my standard wheelhouse, I just wanted to. We got a couple of more buying power things coming out, and I thought this one was particularly funny because, and I think I got to start, looking. I feel like more and more the shift is occurring from Black to Latin America in terms of the amount of buying power hits I'm getting, and they're doing the exact same thing. I mean, bigger population, and maybe a new population that has to be brought in to this mythology.
It's always the new market is always the prize.
So as I tried to highlight here, presented by the good people at JP Morgan Chase. So we should just start with that. And as it says here, brother Jensen Toussaint is telling us that of course, again, brought to us by JP Morgan, the Latino community drives U.S. economic growth as nation marks Hispanic Heritage Month. Now, what I like about this title is that, again, it speaks more accurately to what they're really saying, that the buying power of Latinos is about driving the country's economic growth, not their own strength, not their own condition, but driving the nation's economic growth. And by that, what they mean is the white owners of the economy are the ones benefiting from this. So as they say, Hispanic buying power
usually to the detriment of that community. It's
absolutely
because the wealth is what wealth is there is being extracted,
that's
from
the
it.
word.
Yeah,
that's the word, extraction. Hispanic buying power has grown substantially over the last 30 years to $1.9 trillion in 2020, up from $213 billion in 1990, according to a recently released multicultural economy report by the University of Georgia Selig Center for Economic Growth.
Nobody else does this research but them. Man.
How can it be that there is only one source ever for all of this constant messaging? But to get to their real point here, the spirit of entrepreneurialism is thriving in the Latino community too. The Hispanic community is twice as likely to start a new business in the United States compared to any other segment of the population. Shame on you, everyone else. Shame. What's more, according to the Peterson Institute for International Economics, over the next 2 decades, the Latino and Hispanic community will account for 85% of all new job holders in the U.S. workforce. Now, again, that last line is another part of the mythological concoction they use to create this myth of economic power, that by saying that 85% of the new jobs will go to in the U.S. workforce will go to Latinos. First of all, that sounds horrific for everybody else. If everybody else needs jobs, how is 85% of all these new jobs going to one community? Secondly, what are those jobs? And what do they pay?
That's the question.
What are they going to do?
Job is different than a career.
I mean,
way different.
So, but again, and so it's again just another example of the Selig Center and the mythological claim that there is an economic strength that is based on the only reality of its support of and expansion of and supplement of white corporate owners of the economy. Oh, the one thing I forgot that I had highlighted here that says, because it goes into a Q&A and it says, we sat down with JP Morgan Chase's head of community impact, Alice Rodriguez, who discussed must-know financial resources as well as how JP Morgan Chase is helping Latino Hispanic community. So I love that. The head of community impact, Alice Rodriguez. Now go impact the community and tell them, to shop up, you know what I mean? Spend up. So now that's related to another fascinating piece that I saw the other day, which I'm glad we're segmenting this, because this is probably going to get this video demonetized. So when people, if you're about to see this in the replay, if the next few minutes go silent, it's because of YouTube and copyright. But the visuals alone will convey, I think, plenty. But for those of us who are here now, let's check out this.
It's Black Friday. Oh, it's the day, baby. So go and get yourself off that couch. Go get some new stuff. All them shoes you want, all them clothes you want. It's time. It's Black Friday.
Oh, it is Black Friday.
You know what I'm saying? So you got a little discount. Let's go make the world spin, baby. Make the world spin.
Small business owners, T-Pain and Google.
Yeah, I know you got a lot on your plate. I understand that. If you ever get
That afro, man, thing is glorious.
Hey, who don't want to listen to her?
Yeah, I shop different. I am not finished. I'm not talking about holding it up. I say
that's hot.
Black business in the black district. They'll earth this act too. We about to act different. Not just talking about shoes and clothes. Finish just a vast difference. Grassroots, I made it out the grass clipping. I'm sick and tired of getting undercut, undersold. Most things that you need is right under your nose. Just shop black, even if you're not that. Even t-shirts, do some research. You don't need sleep first, you need to wake up.
That's hot. I like the sample too.
Yeah.
Everybody ain't no sleeping in bed.
Little girl, I know you don't know where to go and get them products for your hair. Just do a search, get well versed in everything that you own. God didn't make a mistake, that's why he painted you strong.
We are back with BOF Black on Friday, baby. And you know how easy it is. All you gotta do is search it. Black owned business near me. Black on table.
Black on cake.
This is just art.
Beautiful.
Y'all like the girls. You don't love it. It's them. I think I'm the bite. Just take it home. Black on right in front of us. Search. And don't forget. Look out for that you see on the screen.
You got a style that can only be found in the neighborhood. But now we going worldwide, all the neighbors good. Search black, it don't hurt to get work back. Feel good to feel good, no more stressing and hurt back. The crib's in out, even the candles came from a black man. Furniture handcrafted by black hands. You know we eating good food cooked in Inglewood. Look on the package and you can see the hood. I need a good collar for my dog, I'ma hit up my dog. I need flowers for my mother, I'ma hit up my brother. It's about time we start helping each other. And that's that, whatever you need, you can get that black. That's facts, you can wake up.
That's hot. And you know what it also reminded me is that in the Kanye interview, sorry, Shirley, that don't get mad at me. He said that Jay-Z was hurt, that his song, The Death of Autotune, hurt Jay-Z because Autotune didn't die after he put out that track. And then here's T-Pain, you know, sort of the king of Autotune for so many years, at least, back in this commercial, you know, by Google.
Mm-hmm.
Telling you to search using Google for black-owned businesses to get your Black Friday on. And again, so this, to my point about buying power, this is what they mean by financial literacy. That the new financial literacy and the conscious consumer is someone who isn't necessarily doing something different with their money, but they're looking to spend their money with outlets that at least symbolize blackness. Or if not are in fact black owned. So it's saying don't be critical of a Black Friday or why there is a Black Friday and why all this consumption is going on and who it supports and what it does and da. They're saying just put a black on it and get your black candles and black furniture and all of that. And I certainly, you know, get all of that. But of course, the subtext is this is a pathway to progress and freedom for the collective, and that's of course where I you know, all my problems.
Yeah, collective ownership of goods. Well, certainly goods and services that everybody needs, especially in the commons, should be the goal, and not necessarily to open up businesses, because you know businesses are only going to empower individuals or certain groups of individuals, and not the collective. And I think that's the whole point, you know, that people miss when they start talking about, you know, black businesses. Of course, you know, I think we also believe in supporting black businesses and so forth. But I think that the aim, and we do that with the understanding of knowing that is not going to empower us as a collective. It will help certain people, you know, who own the businesses, but not necessarily the whole group. You know, so we just have to keep that in. Now we have a consortium of Black businesses that then come together to fund projects and things in the community, fund, you know, community farming, you know, fund broadcast, you know, situations like this, the way the white corporate pieces fund, you know, the big the radio stations and so forth. Of course, it's not going to be on the same level. But if you're talking about doing something like that, then you may be onto something. But in terms of just this whole individual thing, you know, it's a dead end.
So I'm wearing Black owned.
Yeah.
I drink Black owned. And in fact, we need your help out there.
What's that? What you got there?
In the 100 proof
Uncle Nearest.
And we need people to click like and join and subscribe because 1856, just to make sure make sure. Yeah. You know,
I got my readers on.
Yeah,
you know,
because
we somebody old, said somebody in the comments said we are elders. In fact, man, we coming for y'all too, man. Respect your elders.
Yeah. So, but as the sister that owns Uncle Nearest told us, we need your help because we're not a big enough platform for them to officially sponsor us. So, and Melanin Apparel never responded. So we need your help to get bigger so that those Black owned businesses will see value in BPM enough to support us officially. So anyway, speaking of Black owned businesses and the pet peeves around here, the good folks at the Black One United Bank offering the 411 on crypto. And I love how they start off here. So cryptocurrency. What's the 411? Unfortunately, no relation to the timeless Mary J. Blige album.
Hey, yo, what's the 411, hun?
And shout out to Grand Poobah on the track as well. You know what I'm saying? But
the Ohio Players joint.
That joint was hot. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, did you know? Oh my God! Are you aware? Speaking of olds, did you know that Jimi Hendrix did a track with the Last Poets?
No, I didn't know that.
Had you ever heard that before?
No.
I just learned that last night, and I don't even remember the name of it, and I have not found it yet. But apparently that happened. So I was on brother Bell. What's his? I got to give him credit because we're going to have him on at some point because he's written a book about the history of rock and roll and Black rock and roll. But I was on an interview with him and he let me Robert Bell. We're gonna get him on. He broke that down to me. Fascinating. I thought I knew all that there was to know about Jimmy, but the one thing I wanted to bring up about this is that I thought it was funny that as One United Bank is encouraging involvement in cryptocurrency, I like the way down here that they have explained that there are always risks associated, and that and specifically like any form of investment, there are risks associated, especially as cryptocurrencies are relatively new and less regulated. Historically, digital currencies have been seen unpredictable volatility. So I thought that was an interesting admission, not quite fine print, but lesser promoted print, because it is an important point to remind people that cryptocurrency is an investment, just like anything else. It is not some guarantee of, again, collective or even individual advance. It is like taking a risk with any
disclaimer.
other.
They put that disclaimer in that piece.
They got to put that in there, which was very smart. And I bring that up because, for another reason, because the other day, Lawrence Grand Prix was on with us and we had a discussion about all that was missing from Mersa Baradaran's The Color of Money. I don't fully agree with Lawrence on his critique, but I encourage people to check out that conversation. And I bring it up because I did, when I reached out to Mersa to let her know about the conversation, I did passingly let her know, like, I don't know what it is you got going on with Karen Hunter and One United Bank, but I want to let you know that we're going to have this discussion. I think there's some valuable points that Lawrence brings up, but I also don't fully agree with him either. And then as a result of that, I don't have permission to go into this at this point, but I did hear from the economist Derek Hamilton, who saw that discussion, and I want to have him on because he was appreciative of our conversation, but he did want to politely challenge me on the universal basic income concept, saying something to the effect that it would create and lead to inflation and cause other problems. So we're going to try to have him on after the semester, I think, to maybe flesh that out a little bit and talk more with him about that and an extended conversation around what is or is not right in our conversation about Marisa Baradaran's work. So,
and I wanted to share something too.
Sure.
It's already should be set up.
Yeah. There it is. Yep.
You got it. So just to what you were saying, I looked that up. Jalal Nuruddin.
That's the name of it. That's
right. Yeah, 8 minutes. It's almost 9 minutes long. You know.
Wow.
So yeah, it happened mid to late 1969. Yeah, man. The last poets was struck a chord with Miles and Hendrix, Miles Davis and Hendrix. Oh, Buddy Miles. I'm sorry, Buddy Miles, who played
Buddy Miles.
Band
yeah, because I remember Miles Davis had said at one point that he wanted to record with Jimmy, like that he was on the list.
That would have been crazy.
And somebody argued that if you listen to the Dark I never know how to pronounce it. Is it Dark Magus or Magus? Magus by Magus. Dark Magus. By Miles Davis. Magus. Okay.
Yeah, Magus.
If you listen to that, it sounds very much
not MAGA. I know
not MAGA.
I know we were talking about blank earlier, but Magus.
We're talking about Miles Davis and Dark Magus. and if you listen to that album, which I think is great, it sounds a lot like late Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies style music. And Buddy and Miles did say he wanted to record with Jimmy at some point, and unfortunately they never got there. That would have been, you're right, amazing. And shout out to the late great Buddy Miles too, because when I was playing drums in Western Maryland's greatest funk band between 1997 and 1999, Mama's Biscuits, Buddy Miles, the brother who played drums most famously with Band of Gypsies, and
he sat in with Mama's Biscuits.
No,
y'all did a track with Buddy Miles.
He did not. Nope, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he more than anyone. No, he more than anyone else was the model for my drumming. That's who I was trying to be when I was playing. So Them Changes, the famous song that he sang and performed drums on at the same time. He performed with Wilson Pickett for a long time. Did a tour with Santana. I mean, dude was on fire.
White critics were pissed off at Jimmy for going with the Band of Gypsies, man.
They were not happy with that.
They were not happy because he had an all black, backing band. And the other cats were good. I can't front on them. I mean, I can't front on no great musicianship. They were good as well.
Who you talking about? The Experience? You mean
the Experience?
The folks?
The Experience. They were good, man. Especially the drum. What's the drummer's name?
Noel Rogers. Noel something.
Yeah, something like
Noel
that.
something.
He was a beast.
He was a beast, and he was. And I remember that he was. The issue was that it was Chaz Chandler, the manager of the Monkees, that put them together. Like they weren't a naturally formed band.
It wasn't organic, and they still produce some magic. Yeah.
They still produce, and the drummer, and they said that part of the conflict was the drummer was a jazz drummer. He was primarily interested in jazz. He didn't even, that's why if you listen to Jimmy's the Experience, the drumming is very not standard rock stuff.
Yeah.
And
which made it stand out.
And the bass player was a traditional like blues rock player. So like they had to like find that thing. And then when you got with Buddy Miles, who comes out of R&B and funk and blues, and that hard soul, that backbeat.
That Mama's Biscuits kind of soul.
That Mama's Biscuits.
The Mama's Biscuits with the gravy and the I mean, I personally like syrup on my biscuits, but sometimes I put a little strawberry jam on there. But neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there. So yeah, absolutely. All right. You know what? I think that's it. No, there was one more thing. Let's do one more thing. So check this out. This is an excerpt. Now, late last night, early this morning.
You did say you didn't get any sleep.
I watched almost the whole thing, the Hassan Campbell interview with Math Hoffa. And my goodness, is there, to the point we were trying to make earlier, these are my political fantasies. These are the conversations I want our crew to be able to intervene on, because there are gems and then there's a lot of confusion. But there's this little clip I wanted to play here, because I know we were talking about hip hop and music and the politics around it. Campbell says something here. Now, I believe they're going into more of the mysticism of Illuminati stuff, but for my purposes, he says something that does comport with my own worldview, but albeit in a different way. So they're talking about immediately the context of violence in the streets, and specifically in this case, Chicago. So let me just play this little clip real quick.
By the feds to take themselves down. All of the murders in Chicago happens on Instagram first and happens on Instagram after. So now every blogger is connecting the dots of who killed who, when they killed them, how they killed them, and the feds is leaving it that way because the drill music is the cycle. Now the Bronx adapted this bullshit, and what they're doing is, what I don't like is, because you taking kids that's coming from pain and poverty, right? They got all this pain built up, and this is how they know how to unleash it. Mm-hmm. So they see the blueprint is, okay, we're going to start smoking on the dead. We're going to sit up there and smoke on the dead. Then after we smoke the dead, this nigga gonna come and smoke you because you just disrespect his family and he's not playing. There's no squashing that.
Ain't no
you
celebrating it publicly.
You celebrated the death of my family member. 2 days later, you're dead. The YouTube niggas that like to solve cases. He said this. He put this on Instagram. He smoked that pack. He died 2 days. The feds see all of this. But they not locking niggas up, because now the record companies is recruiting. It's because the blood sacrifice. Remember, getting in the music industry in Hollywood, you have to have sacrifices, as they say.
You covering too many topics.
Yeah,
you covering too many topics.
No, No, I ain't gonna go too fast. Right. But when the bodies drop, that's the sacrifice. So it's like, oh, there's blood on the floor. Now we gonna recruit this little dude right here because he's hot. Not because we feel like he got talent. This nigga's more talented than all of them little niggas. We don't want this nigga. So we gonna play this he's too old game. Why? Did you hear what he's saying?
All right. So the whole conversation is fascinating. Now, for me, what they're saying there, because it starts with this conversation about, initially it started with a conversation about generational differences and how young cats today want to do everything on camera and they get themselves caught up. And then I know he starts going into this whole thing, like it's an Illuminati type thing, the blood sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. And he has already come out, like in his own videos, he said like what happened with the Travis Scott thing was because Travis has this whole thing about the devil and all this other kind of stuff, inviting all that. I don't believe in any of that. But what I do believe in and what I do agree with is that the historically, I think this is borne out by the history, particularly of hip hop. The industry is attracted to those who are coming out of violent situations, who have violent histories, who have violent associations, who will bring that quote unquote authenticity to the popular culture. And I do believe that there is an intent to both market that for business and political purposes. There is an intent to redirect the energy of those, as Campbell rightly says, are coming from pain and poverty, to redirect that energy away from radical political organization and critical thought into violence against one another, safely siphoning off the understandable and predictable contradictions and tensions that emerge out of that pain and poverty to self-directed community violence. So I just thought
just this week, in this past week, we had and two illustrations of what you're talking about. We had Halle Berry is doing this film on Netflix, and she's got a soundtrack, and so Cardi B worked with her on the soundtrack, and that's an all-female artist, soundtrack. And so she was Halle was doing some promo for the thing, and she just kind of off the cuff said that called Cardi B the queen of hip hop, right? of course, you know, these people got these legions of fans. People heard that, oh, that's crazy. So then this other young lady, I forget her name. You know, if somebody knows, maybe in the chat, but she was presenting at some award show over in Europe, and so she said, well, the real queen of hip hop is Nicki Minaj, and Nicki Minaj won some award, and so she calls her. So then, of course, that, you know, all kinds of craziness ensued online. The camps were going at each other, people going hard and this and that. So to the point where Halle had to come out and basically try to squash it and say, look, you know, you can have more than one. So then, of course, fast forward, we know about the tragic news of the brother, young Dolph,
yeah,
in Memphis, who was gunned down. And then apparently, and I don't really know a whole lot about these cats, to be honest with you. The young, I'd never even heard of him, but apparently he was a big deal.
Actually. Yeah,
you know, but he had a lot of. I saw some concerts he was at. He gave like $20,000 to two people who had lost their jobs. You know, so apparently
for playing his music on the job.
Playing his music on the job. And I think they were at Duke University or something like that. So anyway, you know, so he gets shot, and then apparently he's got these beefs with Boosie Badass, who I have heard of, and Soulja Boy. And Soulja Boy allegedly dropped some track about being stretch you out or something like that, and apparently it was an allusion to Dolph that he was already going to release, but since Dolph ends up murdered, he drops the track like today or yesterday or something like that, and so people are crying foul, saying like, wait a minute, why are you doing this now? And it's like he's kind of trolling. Soulja Boy's kind of been known to be kind of sort of a troll over the years and whatnot, and so you have all of this kind of that energy being worked up and people going at each other to the point where the police were like, basically giving a detail to Boosie Badass, and I think one of them ended up having to stop. I think a young. It's stuff so crazy, but one of them had to pull out of the show, a show that's coming up. This Soulja Boy had to pull out of a show in Memphis this weekend around all of this stuff. So again, to your point, who wins at the end of the day? Who's the winner? You know, who benefits from all of this? And to the extent that there is a blood sacrifice. Not saying that that's something that people actually have to do. I don't believe that either. But I think to the extent that there is a blood sacrifice, it's the fact that we actually kill each other and sacrifice ourselves, so to speak, for these people to make money off of our pain. And I think this is really just a continuation of a model that's been in play for at least the past 500 or so years.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And the young artists are mimicking the behavior of artists they see are rewarded with fame and relative riches, so they start behaving in the same way.
That's the template.
That's it. And then similarly, I mean, not exactly the same, but somewhat related, particularly for people of my generation. Alpo was just murdered a couple weeks ago in Harlem. That has a classic, legendary relationship to hip hop. And more broadly speaking, Black people of our relative age group. And I read how, and I remember I just was looking last night, as a matter of fact, I think the niece of Rich Porter was quoted as saying, I'm now, I'm drinking my champagne now. This was a good thing that he got what he deserved, and he shouldn't have been coming back around in Harlem thinking he could get away with this. And the other thing I thought was interesting in the article I read, that they said he was found with with a fake ID that they suspected was given him as part of his witness protection. But the ID, I think, was in Maine. I think he was in Maine or Connecticut. So he was not living in New York, or not official, or at least in New York, but he wanted, so
I want to go to Maine. Ain't too many Black people there. You're gonna sneak out, man. I went up there with my family one time, man. I went up there with my family. We were. It's beautiful up there too, by the way. You can drink the water. You can drink the water so clean. You can drink. We actually drink water from the stream. But anyway, we were walking, and a Black woman saw us from way down the street. She's from Kenya originally. She married to a white man, but she ran us down. Was like, I've never seen any Black people. I just wanted to say hi. So you might not want to go to Maine if you're trying to hide out, because you're gonna stick out.
I think that's what his license said. But the point was he wasn't. He was back in Harlem at 3 a.m. with apparently bags of heroin in his car too. So I don't know what was going on. But the point is, my point is just that when I read the thing about the witness protection, I kept thinking again, well, who's benefiting from this? his involvement with the state is what got him that ID and got him a target on his back. Of course, you know, killing his friend or whatever too apparently had something to do with that too. But I'm just saying, you know, like, so, anyway, I you know, that's, you know. Look here, man. That was all I had, man, this morning. I you know, as usual, Brother Kaba, thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you, man.
As is the case with everybody else coming through. Please do hit the like, join, subscribe button.
Please forgive us. Please forgive us for our sins.
Thank you.
For we know not what we do.
We know not what we do. And we'll be back Monday morning. You know, try to be better. And then Monday afternoon on PFW, he'll be trying to be better. We'll try to make up for today. And in fact, as a platform, we'll try to make up for it with hopefully. Some of you might not feel this way, given what you said about Kanye, but T.I. is going to be on an interview with Brother Kalanji in a few short minutes. Other programming coming, Warrior Class, Uncle Devin's show, Sundays with Ear Doc. A lot of stuff coming. Remix, of course, coming back next week. So Luke My Nation might be dropping tonight as well. So stick around, and everybody, you know, keep supporting. And Brother Kaba, we'll see you next week and catch you on WPFW 89.3 FM on Monday, 3 to 5 p.m. Shout out to Katia Stitt as well.
Yes.
And as Fred Hampton used to say, peace if you wanted to fight for it. Catch you next time right here at I Mix What I Like. Peace, everybody.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What I like, what I like.